Tripods aren't the most interesting piece of camera gear, but this one has some things going for it. If you somehow haven't heard, this is the Smallrig and PotatoJet Tribex. It is, as far as I know, the first tripod or video tripod with hydraulic legs, which makes it even faster to set up and break down than a lot of the one-step adjustment legs that have been popular recently. Now, Smallrig did send this to me, but not for promo reasons. I actually won it in a competition they ran on Instagram a while ago, so they have no idea that I'm making this video, and they definitely didn't pay me. However, I will leave a link in the description if you do want to go check it out. Okay, the big new feature. Let's talk about it. So the clutch, or the X-clutch technology, or whatever they're calling it, is basically this big new feature that they have on this tripod that makes it different to regular tripods, because you do not adjust any of the legs individually, you adjust them all as one. Now, basically what it is it's a little handle, and you know, it's just that, it's a clutch, kind of like a brake on a bike or something like that, where you squeeze it and then that activates the hydraulics or something like that. I'm not explaining this very well, but the gist of it is squeeze it and it shoots the legs out, and then squeeze it again. If you put pressure on it, it'll let the legs go back in. And it also has the purpose of being used as a handle. There's a little switch right here that if I flick that in, now it closes the clutch and it like deactivates it. So now I can just use it as a handle to pick up the entire tripod. It also has a button right here to adjust the angle, so you can have it sticking straight out the side, either as a handle or, you know, for the clutch. And then you can also have it all the way in for storage when you're putting it into the bag, so it's the same angle that the legs are in. And when it comes to extending or retracting the legs, there's sort of two ways you can do it. You can have it on the ground. If I put the feet on the ground here, I can close them all together. Same thing with opening. I can put it on the ground, pull the clutch, and then lift it up. With the feet still on the ground, the feet will just slide a little bit. And then there's the other way, which on the way down doesn't work as well because the feet have to slide in, which is not great, but you can extend the legs really well up in the air. So if you need to fully extend it to get it to its maximum height, which is about here, then you can do that. If you want it to be like half height, you just hold it at the height that you want it, pull the clutch, and then the legs will extend to that length. And like I said, putting it up, really easy. Putting it down, a little bit less so, because like I said, the feet will slide together and the legs will sort of bend a little bit. So there's sort of two main ways that I've found are easier to shorten the legs, and that is to put them all together, put them on the ground together, and then pull the clutch. Or, now, maybe you wouldn't do this with a camera on it, but you can turn it upside down and pull the clutch then. If I extend the legs, let's turn it upside down. I can pull the clutch and then they all close like that. The upside down thing is a lot easier when there's no camera on there, because it's a hell of a lot easier to hold a tripod upside down than a tripod with a whole rig on it. The clutch also acts as a bit of a leveler for the tripod, because there's no way to level the head itself. You just level it using the legs. And with other tripods, that's kind of annoying because you have to adjust each leg individually and it's just a bit of a pain. Whereas with this, all you have to do is hold the clutch in and you can put it at whatever angle you like. The legs will adjust as they need to not only level the camera itself, and there are bubbles on the tripod itself. There's one right here above the clutch. There's also one on the back right here, which you can't see quite as well because the camera's sort of in the way. But then I also find generally I prefer to look at the gyroscope on the camera itself. I'll just pull up the display so I can see what the level's looking like. But this is probably the easiest tripod to level because you can do it at the same time as you're extending the legs, rather than extending the legs and then adjusting the level of the head by the ball or whatever, however you're going to adjust it. And it got really dark all of a sudden. And that whole principle works the same with uneven surfaces. Like if I'm standing in a bit of a ditch here, one leg can just extend more than the others to level it really easily. This leg right here is extended way more than the other two because it's much lower. Same thing as if you had a step right here, let's say my foot is a step, it could just go onto that right there. So it's a lot easier to use on uneven surfaces as well. Now, like a lot of tripods, the legs are adjustable in their angle that they can go out. So you can actually go out all the way to there. So you could angle all the legs out really wide So you could put the legs out all really wide, lock it in there. And now the one thing that you will have to do here is, because the center column does stick out quite a lot, you either have to, you know, raise it up. Like right now, it can't go on the ground, so I could just raise through the center column so that doesn't hit the ground, and I could have it about this low, and that would work. It's a bit wobbly when you do raise up the center column though, so I'm not a big fan of that. You can take the center column off at this point, so then only this top bit will go into the legs itself, so that's one way you can do it. So if you do need to get it really low, you can. However, I don't think this is the best tripod to do that with anyway, so I feel like I probably won't be doing that. If I need to get a low angle shot, I would just put my camera on the sack that I have over there as well. So it's a lot easier than using a tripod. But if you do need to get a nice locked off shot, or even have, you know, some fluid movement with a fluid head, then you can utilize that whole system. So now let's talk about the issues with the whole hydraulic system. As you can see there, I don't know if you could hear that, but when you let go, it does take a second before it locks. So that is something to keep in mind. If you wanted a very specific height, then you're gonna have to let go very slightly earlier than you need to. It's not that big of a deal, but that is a thing. And then with the clutch itself, as a handle, it works pretty well. However, it is a little bit loose. It sort of wobbles here. And then even if we put it up to there, again, it still wobbles a bit. So that's not ideal with a handle. Maybe it needs to be like that. Maybe mine just needs tightening. I'm not sure. And then when you're in the vertical position, it doesn't actually lock there. So when you are putting it into the bag sort of thing, you need to make sure that that stays there and it doesn't flip out to there and get stuck on anything, because it'll lock there, but it will not lock vertically. And then, like I said before, lowering it is a lot harder than raising it because of how gravity and tripod legs work. Okay, now let's talk about all the rest of the features of this tripod, because it is still a video tripod, so it's gonna have a lot of those fluid head video features. Starting with the fluid head. The head itself is pretty good, but it's not as heavy duty as other ones that you might expect or compare it to, like the AD100 that I'm shooting on right now from Smallrig. That one has the benefit of being more heavy duty. However, this one does have counterbalance, whereas that one does not. With the head itself, we have the pan adjustment down here with a lock, so you can adjust the tension, but then this is all the way on and it's still pretty easy to move. That was it unscrewing there, so that's not ideal as well. Not a big fan of that. If you have the tension on too much, or you like lock it and then you turn it to the left, it will start unscrewing, which I do find a little annoying. The pan axis does have a lock there and it works pretty well. Like, that's not really gonna move, which is good, because I know some tripods, like the one I'm shooting on now, doesn't do that. I'm just gonna wait for this wind. The tilt axis has an adjustment here, so you can adjust the tension of the tilt axis. As you can see, that is not gonna hold it. And then I adjust the tension here, and it is a lot slower now. There's a lot more resistance there, but as you can see, it's not holding it. And that is because this rig is just very slightly too heavy for this level of counterbalance. Now I can combat that by just locking the axis. So this knob here will lock it in place, which is handy if you do need to lock it, but it means you won't have the fluid movement. It'll sort of jerk a little bit when you move it, so you need to sort of unlock it, and then you can have that fluid movement. Speaking of the counterbalance, on the side here, we have our 4 counterbalance levels. You have 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now 0 is definitely not gonna hold this rig. 0 is really good for if you have nothing on it, or you know, maybe a really light setup with like just a camera and a lens. A really small rig with maybe a camera, lens, and like 1 or 2 accessories, then you're probably gonna go with level 1, maybe 2, and then, you know, slightly bigger rig, go with level 2. Anything this size, level 3 will be mostly okay, but it will not hold every single time. So as you can see, it's moving here. So that's my main complaint with the counterbalance system, is it just doesn't have enough steps to hold anything that's like bigger than this whole rigged up camera. So if you're gonna have a fully rigged up FX6 or Red Komodo or something like that, unless it's just bare bones, the counterbalance won't really be up to scratch with holding that in place, which kind of, in a way, defeats the purpose of having a fluid head, because the benefit of having a fluid head, especially with a counterbalance system, is you don't have to lock it. You can just put it in any position and it'll stay. Whereas with this, I kind of have to adjust with the lock, at least with the tilt axis, to keep it from doing this. But if you have a rig that isn't this big or this heavy, then you'll be totally fine. Level 3 of the counterbalance and all the tension on the tilt axis should be enough for anything smaller than this. The handle is very similar to any of the other Smallrig heavy duty tripods. It is a telescopic handle, so it has this adjustment here, so you can adjust the length of it, and it's very similar, or pretty much exactly the same as the one on the AD100, which I did actually have come off once when it was fully extended. This bit sort of broke off, so I never really fully extended anymore. I haven't had that with this because I haven't had it very long, but I'm just a little bit wary of these style of handles because of that now. The benefit that this one has over the AD100 is this one, the basically rosette that it attaches to is metal, so it goes plastic onto metal instead of plastic onto plastic. Metal on metal would be better, but this is better than plastic on plastic still, so it's an improvement. And there is a mounting point on either side for the handle there. You can see this sort of rosette style attachment there. It's not an actual RE rosette, but it does the same thing. The drop-in quick release is pretty good. I do have a couple issues with it though. The plate that comes with it is solid. Now this isn't the plate that comes with it, this is another plate that I already had. The plate that comes with it, I've actually got into my base plate right here. It's just a pretty standard Manfrotto style plate. Pretty solid, but I would have expected something a bit bigger. It's got some rubber on the top to sort of lock it to the camera a bit, and it seems to be holding pretty well. The actual quick release mechanism is nice. It's a very good drop in, so you don't have to slide it ever. You can just drop it in and then you tighten it down. And with the actual mechanism here itself, it has space to store your screws if you want to keep spares, or for some reason if you want to take the ones out of the plate, you can do that. There is a nice little switch on the back right here to change between standard and DJI style, like the RS plates, which is a nice addition. You don't have to press down on the pins themselves, you just flick the switch at the back. Cool idea. Not super useful, it's not really that much better than not having that, but you know, it's not a bad thing. But the issue that I do have with this quick release system is the fact that the knob is on the right side and the button is on the left. So I can't just one-handed loosen and then detach like I can with the AD100. With that one, it has the knob on the left, the button on the back. So I can unscrew it here, one hand here, and my right hand is on the camera the entire time. With this though, I have to hold the camera with my left hand because I'm not gonna just loosen it and then not hold on to the camera. So I hold on the camera with my left hand, unscrew it here, switch hands just to press the button and take it off. So I understand that it might be there for like security purposes, so it's harder to accidentally do it, but I would rather it be easy to do it on purpose with one hand. I don't want to have to switch hands. And same with locking. If I'm holding the camera with my right hand, I have to put it in, support the camera with my left hand again, and then tighten it with my right. Just a little bit annoying, and I don't really get why they decided to do that. The feet are basically the same as the AD100 or other Smallrig tripods. They're pretty light and they do come off. There is a button at the back here. If I press that, I can slide that off, and then you have the two spikes there if you have uneven ground or something like that, and then they just lock back on like that. They do only tilt in one direction. They occasionally get stuck in this position and you have to sort of manually flatten them out. That's not a big deal. And the one difference that they do have between these and the AD100 ones is they have a different attachment for a ground spreader, like what would be on like the AD120 or whatever it's called, the bigger, heavier duty video tripod. Like I mentioned before, the center column is adjustable. As you can see here, there's a little lockable latch here, which is nice. You can't accidentally flip that up. You have to unlock it with the little knob here, and then you can flip that up. Slides all the way up. Now, if you take this bottom bit out, you can take the whole thing off, and then there is a screw in here that I'm pretty sure if you loosen that with this Allen key here, which is a nice little addition, the hook has an Allen key in it. And then if you take this off, I'm pretty sure you can slide this straight into the tripod itself and then just remove the center column if you don't want it, or if you want to get really low to the ground. And this is not only just an Allen key, it's also a hook. So if you do want to attach like a sandbag or like a bungee cord or something to strap the tripod down, you can. It goes in there and then it just sort of locks in. The one downside with the center column is it's just a little bit flimsy once you've extended it all the way up. And because of the way that the center column works, there is no actual bowl, so you can't adjust it in that almost ball head style that you can with other tripods, again, like the AD100. So the only way to change the head itself is to unscrew it. So you could put another head on that just has like a 3/8 inch screw on the bottom, but you cannot put like a 75 or 100 millimeter bowl straight into this. You would have to adapt it somehow, if that's even possible. I don't even think that's possible. With the hook and the Allen wrench on the bottom, it's good that they're there, but I kind of doubt that I'll really use them that much. Same with the hidden flathead screwdriver in here, which is like magnetized to the inside. Well, there's magnets in there to hold it in. So you've got a little flathead, basically the same as the ones that come with the standard FX3 cage or FX30 cage. And that just sort of hides in there. Now, I did have an issue last night when I literally found this. I only found it last night, where one of the magnets did come out. So I had to put that back in, but hopefully that's not really a continuous issue, but it's there. It's good to have the tools there just like built into the tripod itself. You don't have to have other tools if you want to adjust anything. So is this the next innovation in tripod technology or something like that? I think there might be other, versions of this, whether from Smallrig or from other companies. They might try to do basically the same thing to make a faster way to deploy and pack up a tripod. And I think I've made it pretty clear that this is really good, but it's not perfect, which, is kind of expected out of a first generation product. You can't really be too mad about it. Oh, also another feature that I forgot to mention, there's a little quarter 20s here with locating pin holes, so you can attach other accessories directly to the tripod. They may even make improvements to this tripod after this first batch. You can see there's the orange handle on here because this is number 75 of 1,000. So they only made 1,000 of these before they, do their next round of orders or whatever. So they may make improvements between this batch and the next batch. We'll see. And I'm kind of curious to see if other companies will try to compete with this using different methods rather than hydraulics or something else. So we'll see what the future looks like with tripods like this. I'm interested to see how they go. My overall thoughts on this tripod as a whole though is I think this is going to be my go-to tripod for any sort of run and gun style stuff where I do need a tripod. It's either going to be the SAC or this, because this is a lot easier to travel with and carry around than my heavier duty AD100. But if I need something that's a bit more heavy duty, then I will definitely be using this one. It's definitely not like a travel tripod, but it can be small and light enough to carry around, and it's not too big of an inconvenience if all you're taking is just this. Definitely a lot easier than some bigger, heavier tripods. So yeah, unless you need a proper heavy duty video tripod for cinema cameras, then this will hold most rigs just fine. So if you like the fact that it's really easy to set up and pack up and all that sort of stuff in a variety of different scenarios, maybe check it out. Again, there's a link in the description, and I might put one up here as well. I'll also put up the video about the AD100 that I made quite a while ago when I got it, so check that out if you're interested in another tripod as well. Let me know what you think about this. Do all the other things. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.